Center for Speech and Hearing. I'm Emily Obergener, an instructor and clinical supervisor.
And I'm Amy Herron. I'm the clinic coordinator here at the center.
So what we're going to talk to you about today is the use of Praat as a technological solution for tracking your kids' production of R. So a lot of times for us as SLPs, when a kid produces R or makes progress on R, we can hear it, but it's a very subjective perceptual evaluation. So we love our data, and so we want a way to kind of provide that quantitative data that Praat could provide. So, Ms. Herron, how do you like to use Praat in your session?
So I like to use Praat to look at the speech signal that we get. And you really only need a little bit of knowledge about speech science to be able to look at the spectrogram and figure out whether or not the R that the client is producing is on target or whether or not it needs additional remediation. And the other reason I like to use Praat is I can track progress over time in a very objective way instead of just trying to guess whether or not it's getting better.
All right, so we're going to take you back to Speech Science 101. And remember, our speech signal has formants. So how are we going to use those formants to track what's a good R and what R needs that remediation you're talking about?
So a speech signal is really complex, and like Mrs. Obergener said, it has all of these formants, and we want to analyze those. So what we look for in R, we actually look at formant 2 and formant 3. And in those formants, we can tell whether or not that R is accurate or not. What we want to see is F2 and F3 coming together closer. And the way we can see that is because we can actually draw lines representing those formants. So it can be very easy when you look at that spectrogram to look at that and see, hey, I can see that those two lines are getting closer and closer together, and then you can see that that gap is narrowing. And then from an objective data standpoint, you can actually get the numbers. We measure formant frequencies in hertz, and so you can actually look at the hertz and see what that gap is between F2 and F3, and you're able to objectively measure exactly how much closer those two lines are together.
There are several things that I like about Praat. The first one being it's free. A lot of times we as speech language pathologists, our budget for materials, our budget for technology is not very big. And so this is an easy, quick, free tool that you can kind of implement into your therapy toolkit. You also spoke about how you like using Praat with kids. Why was that?
I like using Praat with kids because, well, for several reasons, but one is that it's very easy for them to look at the screen, and with just a little bit of teaching, they can actually know whether or not their R production was accurate. And that provides a little bit of visual biofeedback, which is important for that child because their ability to rely on their own production or the way they hear their own sound is not always accurate. So having that visual biofeedback can be really helpful. The other way that I like to use it is I can provide cues, and then I can see the effect of those cues immediately. So I can say, hey, I would like you to really pull that tongue back and keep it tight. And then I can get that recording and I can compare that to providing another cue. Maybe I'm trying to compare two different techniques, like the bunched R versus the retroflex R. I can immediately see which one gets me closer to the target production.
So we are going to show you a little screen recording of how we use Praat for your R tracking. If you have any questions, let us know, but hopefully this is an easy thing that you can implement into your practice.
All you need is a computer, a laptop, a microphone, and you're on your way.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Herron again, and here we're going to do a little demonstration of how to use Praat. And I have Mrs. Obergener with me here as well. And so we're just going to describe how to use it. The first thing you can do is just go onto Google and do a quick search, and it should be the very first link that comes up. And you can go ahead and look, and if you're on Mac, you would want to choose the one for Mac right here. Let me use my, okay. And then if you want to use Windows, then you would use the one for Windows here. I'm going to use Windows because that's the kind of computer that I'm on. You would want to choose the version that works best for you. And newer computers, you would want to use the 64. Older computers, you would use 32. I'm just going to click 32 for right now. So, I have the Praat application open. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over here to New, and I'm going to click Record Mono Sound. There. And then I'm just going to click Record and do a nice production. So we'll see what a good, strong looks like.
Great R.
Thanks.
Nice.
Thank you. Here in the name, I'm going to go ahead and name it something so that I remember. So I'm just going to call this R1 and save it to my list and close. So now I have my speech signal that I want to analyze. I'm going to click on that and click View and Edit. and I get my lovely spectrogram. Now, I have already set some of my settings so that you can actually see the formant frequencies that we talked about, and you can start to see that a little bit. Now, remember for R, I'm really only worried about the first 3, so I'm actually going to narrow my window a little bit, and I'm also going to take off this pitch line because I'm really not that interested in pitch when it comes to analyzing R. So the way to do that is I'm going to take off the pitch line like this, and I'm going to narrow my spectrogram window a little bit by going into the spectrogram settings. And I'm just going to make this window just a touch smaller so then I can really see my formants a little bit better. I can also, because I'm still a little zoomed out, I'm going to zoom in to the selection, and then I can see a little bit better. The other thing I'm going to do is go to my formants. So you'll want to make sure that the formants, that you've clicked this check mark here by show formants so that you can actually see them, because it's a little hard to see if you're just going by amplitude alone. All right, under my formant settings, I can make my dot size a little bigger if I want. I can make it a little smaller, and that will help to be able to see that line a little bit better. Okay, so there we go. So now I have a nice line that I can see there. All right, and as you can see here, I have a little bit of a gap here between my F2 and F3, and then I have my F1 all the way down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to analyze the data by clicking somewhere in the signal that's strong and consistent. So right here in the middle is good. And then I'm going to analyze my formant data. So I'm going to get the data for F2, which is right around 1300 hertz. And I'm going to get my data for F3, which is right around 1800 hertz, giving me a gap of 500 hertz. What we typically like to see is a number less than 800. And when we hear that, that signal in the brain is going to convert and say, hey, that's an R. But when it's greater than 800, that's when we start to have problems with our brain recognizing that. We view that as a distortion. So now I'm going to record a signal that would be a little bit less accurate. Unless you would like to do the honors, Mrs. Overgunner.
I can do a bad R. That's
All right,
fine.
go for it.
Oh.
Lovely. All right. So a lot of times what I notice with the way the formants kind of show up in this signal is that a lot of times it correlates with tongue height and tenseness. So I'm just going to make sure that I can see all of my formants okay. It's going to vary sometimes based on the individual and their pitch. And so now I can see my third formant, whoa, way up at the top, and I have F2 and F1 very close together. And this is a pretty typical signal for a client who is coming to us with an R issue. So, so we see those there in this problem. So if I go ahead and look at the difference between F2 and F3, I can see around 1000 hertz for that F2 and around 3200 hertz for F3, giving us a gap of around 1200 hertz, which is pretty large. What did I say? 2200 hertz.
2200.
I'm sorry.
Even larger. Yeah.
Even larger. 2200 hertz, if I could do some math. So 2200 hertz. And we can see that you know, that signal obviously is way bigger than our gap of our goal gap of 800. And so, like I said, this F2 and F3, when they're kind of far apart, that's a symbol or a signal to me that the tongue is very lax. It's low in the mouth. And usually as the tongue gets higher and tighter in the production, then those lines are just going to push closer and closer together.
So, Ms. Heron, I have one question for you.
Sure.
Would you recommend doing this throughout your entire session? Is that needed? Or should we just do it at the beginning or at the end? What do you typically recommend?
So the way I use Praat, I typically do a pre-intervention average, and then I do a post-intervention average. So at the very beginning of my session, I do about 5 to 10 productions, and I just see how things are going. I may spend a little time with it longer if I'm using it as an intervention tool. Say I'm wanting to really see the effect of different cues. So I may stick with it for a little longer. But in traditional, once we're kind of going, I typically just do a little bit at the beginning, and then we do therapy. We keep trying, really working on tension and height. And then at the end, I do 5 to 10 again, average those. And I even report in my SOAP note a little pre-intervention, post-intervention. And that can help me report and say, hey, look, with therapy, you know, we saw this improvement, or maybe I didn't see improvement and I need to adjust my approach. One other thing I wanted to add is the other great thing that you can do is you can save these signals. So you can actually save them as one bulk signal so you can analyze it later. Or if you want to just capture all of the data from one session, you can just highlight them together using Shift and then save as a WAV file. And you'll save that in your client's medical record if you have, or some kind of storage system that you have. And then you can actually pull that back and look at it later to compare how they were doing maybe at the beginning of the semester or at the beginning of your treatment period, and then look at it again at the end. So it's just a great way to have this objective data. If you have to demonstrate improvement to insurance, you can really track that data over time. And you don't have to go with that plus minus tracking system. You actually have some really good sensitive data to use to make treatment decisions.